Wow, we really quieted it down. Nice. Well, the most important announcement of the morning is the bathrooms are located in the back of the building. You all need to know that. Well, welcome everybody. Thank you for being here. My name is Russ Cohen. I'm the Executive Director of the Palo Alto Downtown Business and Professional Association. That's a real mouthful. We call it PAD for short, or some people call it the BID. You know, some say that downtown Palo Alto is the epicenter of innovation. But with innovation comes a great deal of disruption. Isn't that true? So the Downtown Association is pleased to present this particular discussion. I believe it will help us plan for what seems like a great deal of retail disruption. Today, I think you're going to have an opportunity to peek behind the curtain and look into the crystal ball all at the same time. Now, for the record, the Downtown Association does a great many things to keep Palo Alto, downtown Palo Alto, the destination that it is today. Everything from concerts to street maintenance, cleanliness, promotions, and meetings just like this one. And we hope to have more meetings just like this. I might add that all of these events and all of these meetings and all of these concerts, they all have sponsorship opportunities attached to them. And if you're interested, you should see me after the meeting. Several books have been written about this subject. It is not a new subject. It is one that is coming to fruition right here in downtown Palo Alto faster than we can keep up with. But you know, many books have been written about the subject. Many articles have been written about the subject. In fact, Forbes magazine wrote an article recently that was sort of an oversimplification of the subject about the future of retail. But I think it's important. I'm going to pull out just one little quote from that article because I think it will set the scene for what we're about to discuss today. Let me read it to you. Quote, "Some retailers need to adapt. Some need to transform the customer experience fundamentally. Others just need to go away. Most need to take bold and decisive action to stay relevant and remarkable in a very different and constantly evolving world." So I think that really sets the stage for what we're about to discuss today. For a moment, let me introduce a few elected officials. I may introduce some other people who have paid me to introduce them. Elected officials, I think we have Council Member and former Mayor Karen Holman in attendance. Karen, thank you for being here. We have Councilman Greg Tanaka. And I also believe Council Member Adrian Fine, has he arrived yet? He did RSVP, but I don't see him currently, but I have assurance that he'll show up eventually. I also see some staff members from Palo Alto, of course, but I also see some staff members from Redwood City and Burlingame. So this is a topic that is not only relevant to downtown Palo Alto, but relevant throughout the peninsula, in fact, throughout the nation. We'll begin what is sure to be an informative and educational forum, but before that, a few opening remarks from Councilman Greg Tanaka. Greg?
So good morning. Can you guys hear me? Okay, great. So as Russ mentioned, I'm on the Palo Alto City Council. Just started serving this year. I've been on the Palo Alto Planning and Transportation Commission for many years. But more importantly, I'm also a business owner here in Palo Alto. I work with a lot of different retailers. Our company, we're a tech company, but we help retailers improve their operations, helping them give them a boost in revenue. And as Russ mentioned, retail is going through probably one of the biggest transformation it's gone through in the past century. Probably a week doesn't go by, we don't see something in the New York Times about the death of retail or how retail is on the ropes or struggling. How many of you guys have actually bought something on Amazon? Raise your hands. Okay, so that's one of the big disruptions happening, right? The movement to online. And so if you look at the future of retail, physical retail, the nature of it is changing dramatically. It's changing from things like just pure fulfillment, where you just stack it high and watch it fly, to really bifurcating into two parts. one part is the lowest cost possible, like Costco, Walmart. That's doing relatively well for physical retail. The other part that's doing well is experiential retail. So like your Apple stores, right? Or apparel stores where you have this consultative help. So these are the two kind of growth areas of physical retail. But everything else seems to be really, really difficult. And so for me, I'm very interested in hearing from the panel on their thoughts on the future of retail. But one of the things that this also means is I attend every year, there's this a conference on retail. It's held at Harvard Business School and Warren, alternates every year. But Walter Salmon, who's one of the kind of eminent professors in retail, was talking about how in the United States, the amount of retail space per consumer is like off the charts compared to just about every other country. And what this means is, and with online, this balance is going to have to change a bit. And so the question is, what do you do with the space? And so I think that's probably something very interesting for the panel. I think it's a very diverse panel. I think that the Palo Alto Downtown Association has done an amazing job in getting the attendance here and bringing this very important topic to light. So I wanted to just thank you guys for your attention, for making this happen. And yeah, anyone that wants to talk more about retail or any issues with Palo Alto, please come to see me. One of my associates is also here to chat with people as well. So thank you so much for being here this morning.
Thanks, Greg. You know, sometimes you'll read in the magazine, people to watch, young people to watch over the next couple of years. I'd like to introduce two young men that fit that category, people to watch. Aiden, Kelly, please come up and say a few words. Thank you.
Welcome everyone, thank you for coming to this event. We are the 2017 interns at Premier Properties in Palo Alto Downtown. My name is Aiden Roskov. I'm a junior at Gonzaga University in Spokane, Washington, and I'm studying business administration with a concentration in finance and economics.
My name is Kelly McSweeney. I'm a second year at University of San Francisco School of Law. As a requirement for our internship, we needed a capstone project. And as Palo Alto natives, Aiden and I wanted to do something a little different. As a child, I remember coming to this very North Face store to pick up a backpack each school year. And as I enter grade 18, I still need a backpack. And I'm wondering why this North Face store is now vacant.
So we really wanted to create an event where we could have distinguished panelists really talk about the future of retail and see what's going on in the retail landscape. And so we've been seeing in the news recently about Sports Authority going out of business, Macy's is struggling, Sears is struggling, and so we kind of wanted to flesh out what is really going on behind the scenes and why this is all happening. And also in the middle of our internship, we saw Amazon acquiring Whole Foods. So the grocery industry is also changing. So we really wanted to see what is going on in both of those kind of industries. And so this is kind of why we created this panel to talk about really the future and what's going on. And in preparation for this event, we did a survey of businesses in downtown Palo Alto. And what we got from that is businesses are really struggling because of the large amount of costs they have, the minimum wage, and also the barriers to entry of the business. And probably the most important thing we got from that survey was that businesses actually believe that business and foot traffic in downtown Palo Alto will decrease in the future.
We just want to thank you all for coming and hope you guys enjoy this panel. Here's Russ.
Thank you both. These guys really deserve another round of applause because what they really learned was how to put an event together. And there's a lot of heavy lifting in doing that, so thank you for doing all the heavy lifting.
Can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
What comes after grade 18?
I also want to know what a zag is and what a don is. You know, college mascots, you know, dons, zags, Nittany Lions, Bearcats, what are they? What are those things? I could never figure it out. But that's a whole nother discussion. Anyway, I'm gonna describe to you a few words here. Media and social innovator. Chief Relationship Officer, creator and host of First Person, creator of Palo Alto Online, Palo Alto resident, civic leader, connector, innovator, board member, TEDx speaker, relauncher of Leadership Palo Alto, sketch artist. All of these describe Lisa Van Duzen. Now, I could go on describing her accomplishments and reading her resume. She, in fact, sent me a very long, I could go on and on, but we don't have that kind of time. However, there is one more word that describes Lisa, and that is moderator. She will serve as today's moderator, and I'd like to introduce her right now, ladies and gentlemen, the esteemed Lisa Van Duzen.
Good morning, everyone. Perhaps the most important descriptor for me might be daughter-in-law of a downtown retail manager today, because my mother-in-law is sitting in the third row, Diane Kelly, who is the manager of Bryn Walker, and got up early, skipped other things she would be doing this morning, as many of you I'm sure did, to come and share this morning together to talk and learn and share information about the future of retail and downtown Palo Alto and the rest of Palo Alto. So thank you all for being here. Thank you, Russ, for that introduction. Thank you to Russ and to Kelly and Aiden for organizing this along with the rest of the Palo Alto Downtown and John and Brad at Premier Properties. So a lot went into this, and really an amazing lineup of people. I feel a little bit like a game show host this morning, so I might add that to my list of descriptors. This is, I'd say, the largest panel I've ever moderated, and I've moderated a lot. So anyway, I'm really excited about this. I wanted to start with a little anecdote of just my last weekend, Saturday. I often will go to yoga. I usually am doing yoga at about this time of day, often with Patty McGuigan, so she's still in her yoga clothes. And we, one of the things I love about doing my errands in Palo Alto all throughout is I run into people. I probably ran into 10 or 12 people that I know doing errands, and it all involved going to either the farmer's market or one retail store or another. And so when I think of what would be missing if there weren't retail communities and places to go, it would be that sense of community and connection that I feel. They're not people that I see in my day-to-day life often otherwise. So it's I just wanted to put that out there as one of the benefits of a strong retail community. So what a fabulous topic. And again, a lot of you have skipped something probably to be here this morning. And I am really excited about hearing from all these perspectives. We often spend our days and our evenings excuse me, with people that are kind of in our own silos, that do the same thing, know the same people, and that's a topic these days on the broader stage. So I think this represents a time when we're hearing from a lot of different perspectives. We've got three main perspectives represented here today, and before I introduce them, I'll just share kind of what those are. We've got people very much on the ground running retail operations, a restaurateur with multiple locations, and a family-owned business running retail operations. The second perspective, which is actually at the end of the table, is kind of the landlord, commercial property manager, owner perspective, really important in the ecosystem. And the third is kind of the trend spotting. What is happening? What is happening with the e-commerce and online shopping, and what's really are the trends looking ahead for retail in general. And we're not just talking about what's happening in Palo Alto today, we're talking about what's happening more broadly and how those trends play back into our own community. So I'd love to first get a sense of who's in the room. So I'm going to ask you, you don't have to stand up, but if you could raise your hand, it might be multiple times, if you are a retailer. Okay. And how many of you are affiliated in some way, other than being a customer, with a restaurant? Okay. Okay, we have some. Good. And how about people on the commercial landlord side? A lot of people there. Good. And how about in the retail industry in some fashion? What about e-commerce? Wasn't that? And what about people that are policy oriented, other than as a citizen, or if you're a citizen, maybe you're appointed somehow? And who lives in Palo Alto? Who works in Palo Alto? Who lives and works in Palo Alto? And who's just curious? All right, so thank you. And let me now introduce our panel, and then we'll jump in. What we're going to do this morning is go by group a little bit, kind of dig into those perspectives, then we're going to have a conversation amongst ourselves, and then we're going to turn to you for questions. So I hope you will be thinking about questions, maybe jot them down, and then be ready. And while we want to stay positive, we also want to be real here, because this is a real opportunity to talk about all this. So let me start with let's see here. Lori Silverstein, to my right, is the CEO of Peninsula Beauty Supply. That's a family-owned business with 12 locations from San Francisco to San Jose. And I think you said you started working when you were age very young.
I joke and say it started when I was 12.
But it might have been. Anyway, because this business has been in your family for a long time. So Lori brings a very important perspective of really what it's like to be on the ground. She's got a location here in downtown Palo Alto. Peter Katz is the owner of 8 Counter restaurants. I should say The Counter. And notably, The Counter that's on California Avenue is the second one in the world. And that's pretty cool. First one was in Santa Monica, and there are 8 in the Bay Area location, in the Bay Area. So the other person to his right, see, we're a little bit out of order, is Aaron. Hold on right here. So I'm going to go with Matt here. I've got. So Matt is the Vice President of Westfield Shopping Center. He's got tremendous experience with understanding how shopping centers operate and who is coming into them, who is not. And we're going to hear more about his perspective there. So back to Matt. Matt is the Senior Leasing Manager at Westfield Shopping Center and more than a decade of experience in working in the Bay Area. So Matt specializes in making the shopping experience within Westfield a destination rather than a dread. So on to Aaron, back to Aaron. He is going to really is one of the most innovative firms in retail, really, as I understand it, anywhere. They're not following trends, they're making trends. And as Managing Director of Lockhouse Retail Group, Aaron specializes in landlord and tenant leasing and investment sales. He works closely with the top retail tenants for customized Bay Area rollout strategies and has some of the most prominent retail landlords on the West Coast. We really appreciate him being here. And Betsy McGinn is the founder and CEO of E-Com Consulting. You can guess what she does. She has more than 11 years of experience in e-commerce, specializing in consumer products and helping small brands go to market. So she's on an important side of things and going to talk about kind of what's over the hill. I noted that there were really very few people in the audience who are in that field, so we'll especially look forward to hearing from Betsy on that. And over a period of 8 years, she's led e-commerce strategy and sales marketing and product development with a cross-functional team to create thriving businesses with Amazon, Quidsi, and a number of e-commerce partners. So I think we'll be hearing from Lori about what it's like, let me just change with the audio here, what it's like to be both in a brick and mortar situation and online. I think that's a really important aspect. So we have and John Goldman, how can I forget you? So John, one of the organizers, along with the interns, today of our conversation is managing partner of Premier Properties. I noted co-president with Brad Hickian. Where are you, Brad? All right. Has 20 years of experience in all phases of commercial real estate with a focus on Palo Alto, Menlo Park, and Redwood City. And Premier Properties manages 65 properties, including 45 in downtown Palo Alto. I just want you to pause for a moment and think about that number. That is a lot of properties to manage. I remember the day when the plane crashed. Do you remember that day? And the power went out, and I'll just say, John and Brad were busy guys that day, or it was John at that point, because there are a lot of automatic locks involved in downtown Palo Alto, turns out, when the power goes out. So lots of retail clients, ultimately, in the buildings that John and Brad are managing. So that's enough, I think, for introductions. You will hear more about their experience, their interests, as we go along. So let's start with Lori and Peter. We're now, put yourself in the position of being in the, you're going in, you've got an actual operation, a store, restaurant to open up. And I just want to hear from, let's start with you, Lori, about what is it like? What are your biggest challenges? What are your biggest, kind of what's the day-to-day?
Well, the day-to-day has changed over the years. Just to give you a background, people say, what do you do? And I say, I'm in retail. Retail is my life. My great-great-grandfather had a department store on Market Street back prior to World War I. So it's in my blood to be in retail. I came to Palo Alto in 1982 and opened our first location. We're now in our third location because we outgrew each one. And over the years, there's so much that's changed in retail. As you mentioned, the online and website and the Amazons and the Googles of this world. We've had our own website for many years, and we have our brick and mortar stores, which is our primary business, and we also have our online store. The changes today, as in this moment, is Amazon's the big guy in the room, and it's affecting all levels of anyone in retail or even in the food business with instant delivery that's available now. And it's challenging. I was just presented yesterday from a manufacturer of mine that said that Amazon now has these contracts that they're asking for the brands I sell in my store to be direct with them, and Amazon has had a new section that's spa and beauty. So here are some brands that I've been told that we're not supposed to sell online, but yet they're having direct contracts now with Amazon. And that's totally changed the whole shift for the beauty industry. I just came back from Vegas 2 weeks ago from our big Cosmoprof North America, our huge trade show. And it's affecting every retailer today, but especially for us. So what we found is there's our loyal customers, thank you very much, that come in our stores, and our staff is trained and educated. We have ongoing education on all of our product brands, and we value and believe that we have great customer service and great product knowledge, and that's what sets us apart, because you can't stick your head into the computer and say, okay, would you feel my hair? What do you recommend? But what has happened is customers will come in and get advice from us. They'll take their phones out, click the barcode, and see where they can buy it cheaper. And that's a problem. Or they'll buy it from us the first time, and then they'll do their reorders online. So retail's changed a lot. Also, we deal with, we're always looking for sales help, because especially here in Silicon Valley, so many people can work in the tech world, and they pay more per hour than we do. So we pay well above minimum wage, but it's still a fight, and we offer commissions and spiffs and stuff for our staff. Okay, and we're always looking for ways to improve and to give back to the community is something that's important to me. The challenge has been, of course, with the rising rents, because all of the landlords feel their properties, more value than the next, and when leases come up, I spend a lot of my time negotiating on their rents. I mean, being that I've been in Palo Alto since 1982, and in the location we're now in for 15 years, it's challenging to keep our prices affordable and yet deal with the balance of the increased cost.
Thank you. Yep, here.
Well, first of all, for full disclosure, the counter got bought by Amazon this morning. As one of my weddings. So first of all, how many people here still read the newspaper? couple. Very good.
Well, the question
Or-
is,
or-
how
or
do
wa-
they read it?
Yeah, or watch television. Because I still do both those things, but not many people do. My kids certainly don't. But this morning in the San Jose Mercury News, it was also on the news last night, an article on Stonestown Galleria, which you may be familiar with, a mall in the city. They're tearing out the Macy's, and they're replacing it with theaters and bowling and restaurants. And this is kind of the trend, right? I think Russ alluded to experiential retail is really what's got to happen, because traditional retail is trending out because of the convenience of online commerce, places like Amazon and so forth. I'm as guilty as everybody else. I have an Amazon package arriving at my house, every other day. Surprisingly, it's also affecting restaurants. We've read about Amazon buying Whole Foods, but this has been going on for a while. And our biggest challenge, besides the labor market, which I would put clearly as number one, is the trend in how people are dining out, and especially younger people. People aren't eating out as much as they did 5 to 10 years ago. They are ordering sometimes from restaurants. How many folks in here have ever ordered a meal from a delivery service, like a DoorDash or an Uber Eats or somebody like that? Can I see that again? Okay. And the younger you are, the more likely you are to do that. Okay. How many of you let me ask, how many people go out to eat a sit-down lunch more often today than you did 10 years ago? A minority, okay? And this is what's happening, especially here in the Bay Area, where we have large technology companies who provide restaurants and meals on campus. So it's affecting not just the counter, it's affecting all restaurateurs and frankly, all retail also, because folks aren't out at their lunch hour shopping and relaxing and refreshing their mind. So we could, I guess, look outwardly and blame everybody that this is what's happening and we need to stop it, but that's not realistic. We're not the music labels when Napster came out, right? We would become extinct. So we need to find ways to understand these trends, embrace these trends, and turn ourselves into the next generation of what, in our case, a restaurant experience can be. We're working on that. It is a challenge. And you combine that with some local challenges that we'll get to in Palo Alto. And candidly, this is a tough time for restaurants throughout the country, but especially in the Bay Area.
What's the story of something that happened maybe with one of your employees, or just sort of a situation where it kind of brought together all those things? Either you couldn't keep an employee because of a particular situation, or just some particular story that brings those kind of forces into light.
Well, a couple of the issues that I just touched on that have affected employees, of course, the labor market is such that, more power to them now. We can't hire dishwashers for minimum wage. I mean, it's really, really tight. We have the same issue that Lori was talking about, where the tech companies can now offer jobs to our cooks and have them work 8 to 5 at a higher rate than we're able to pay. And who wouldn't do that? I mean, if I had that choice between working Friday and Saturday nights or being home with my kids, I would do that as well. So the labor issues there, particularly to Palo Alto, there's a severe parking issue. It affects our guests. We've had folks tell us, and it's been in the forums also, about the biggest issue now is not pricing, which has gone up for most restaurants because of the labor market, but rather that there's no place to park. And the city is now doing some things to address that. But parking is a big problem, but what people don't realize is it affects the employees. And especially with some of the new ordinances that have gone in place in terms of restricted parking in some of the neighborhoods around Cal Ave, where we are, there's no place for them to park. And we've lost employees for that. So
What would you like to see happen?
it's a difficult problem. If I could go back 10 years, I would like to see that we build parking garages then. We are now about to build some parking garages. The transition during the construction of those garages, which will actually take parking away, is got me waking up in the middle of the night, to be honest with you. But the one thing I'll say on parking, and then I'll leave it to Lori to comment, is there seems to be this mentality that if we restrict parking, this will enhance mass transit, use of mass transit. And we've surveyed our employee base and our customers, and while that certainly might work for the Googles that are busing people from San Francisco to campus or whatever, it doesn't help you when you're a family of 4 coming down from the Los Altos hills to go out for dinner, and so the parking is strangling retail and restaurants.
Do you want to speak to that?
I just lost our store manager at Palo Alto 3 weeks ago to a job in an office paying $5 more an hour, and she doesn't have to work nights or weekends. So it is a huge problem for us. We offer employee transportation money, so we pay for half of what their cost. Because I always say when you're in Palo Alto, I always try and tout, you can take the train. It's right there. Just walk to our store. And we have some staff that do that. But it is a problem. Parking's been a problem in Palo Alto for years, and it's not getting better. And for me, as a retailer in Palo Alto that started in 1982, there are so many fellow retail business owners, companies, stores where everyone used to come and like to have lunch and stroll, and there were multiple stores to shop in. They're all gone. It's sad to say that there's not many retailers left, and a lot of the space is taken up, by restaurants. And you stroll down University Avenue, and I feel like in an international universe with all the different types of food there is to eat, but there's not enough variety of soft goods anymore, and that's definitely affected us. Parking. Our staff set their iPhones to every 2 hours, so they have to go out and move their car.
I see some nodding out there.
And Laura, you and I have talked about this before. I agree, there are too many restaurants. There are too many restaurant seats in the Bay Area, in fact in the country, and that's one of the problems in the restaurant industry right now. And I believe that traditional retail and restaurants have a symbiotic relationship. And if the mix, these guys will speak to this probably better than I can, but if the mix goes too far one way or the other, then it's out of balance. And we're headed that way because there's always investment money chasing some of these bigger restaurant chains. And they'll go build without a real business case, to be honest with you. And as long as that's happening, and there's a lot of turnover in restaurants now, but there's always another one to come in. And I assume it's probably easier to find a restaurant tenant than it is to find a traditional retail tenant.
So that is a topic, that imbalance, which you're hearing from both the retailer here and the restaurateur, that's a problem. That's, if you think of any ecosystem, when there are too many deer or something, it's not a healthy situation. So I'm really curious to hear from the rest of you about that, and maybe some questions, how that might return to some kind of balance. Is there anything else you want to share in particular about, both of you have locations elsewhere besides Palo Alto. I'm curious about your experience of doing business here.